Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new here, welcome. My name is Braden Timmons, and today we are talking about Rob Zombie's Halloween from 2007. This is the 2007 remake written and directed by Rob Zombie. And I gotta say, this is one of those installments that really divided the fans. Like, if you go onto IMDb and you start looking at some of the reviews that are on it, a lot of people say that this is one of the worst Halloween installments in the entire franchise. And arguably, a sequel to this, which we're going to be talking about next week, is more divisive amongst fans. Actually, I would say that that's probably more hated than Rob Zombie's Halloween, like the 2007 one that we're talking about right now. But we'll talk about that next week. We'll talk about, like, you know, the comparisons and all that shit next week. But this movie is pretty divisive amongst Halloween fans. I can definitely see why, but I fall into the bucket as one of those Halloween fans that actually really likes this movie. That's right, guys. I really do like Rob Zombie's Halloween. But before I continue further into this review, if you guys are new here, consider clicking that subscribe button and turning on notifications for all future videos. We've been on a Halloween journey leading all the way up to Halloween Ends, and we are now on Rob Zombie's Halloween. So if you guys are new here and you guys like horror, you guys like monsters, slashers, pretty much anything that has to do within the horror genre, this is more than likely a channel for you. Consider clicking that subscribe button and join me on my journey to, we are so close to 10,000 subscribers, guys, so join us on that journey. Click that subscribe button and welcome. And I also do want to take a minute and say that Bat Productions merchandise is also now available in the Bat Productions store. There is a link for that in the bio if you guys would like to start purchasing hoodies, t-shirts, all that kind of good stuff. And any and all support is still very much appreciated on Sally, which is my new short original film coming out later on this year. I also have a link for that in the comment section. So if you guys would like to support Bat Productions, you guys can donate to Sally, purchase some merchandise. All of that is greatly appreciated. But now that I got all that out of the way, let's continue talking about Rob Zombie's Halloween. So do I really need to say the story of Halloween, guys? Like, I mean, this is just a reboot of a story that we already know. Michael Myers does escape from Smith's Grove. Michael Myers comes home to Haddonfield. And yes, Michael Myers goes after Laurie Strode. Nothing we haven't seen before. However, the reason that I love this movie so much, and this is the first horror remake I'm covering on this channel. So I want to talk a little bit about my criteria as to how I go into horror remakes and just really remakes in general. And the first thing that I always look for is, how is this relevant to the franchise? What does this film do different than what we've seen before? And I think that Rob Zombie has an incredibly unique vision as how he approached this movie. Now, I will also say that I've read the history of this film. I've watched the 4-hour-long documentary, and I'm talking exclusively right now about the theatrical cut. I know that the cut that mostly is involved with Blu-ray combo packs and everything, or Blu-ray collections, is the director's cut for both 1 and 2 of Rob Zombie's. I bought the Blu-ray pack of the theatrical just to have, so that way I own both cuts. I did not watch the unrated one. I am familiar with the unrated one, and I know that there are some differences, but since I have been talking mostly just about the theatrical releases, I'm approaching this review as just reviewing the theatrical film. And later down the line, if I decide I want to talk about the unrated one, then I will. But just looking at what Rob Zombie brings to the table alone happens within the first 45 minutes of this movie, man. Like, the first essential half of this film covers Michael Myers as a young kid. We actually get to hear Michael Myers talk and exchange dialogue with his family and people at school, and we really see him delve into this madness. We see the transformation of a psychopath. And I really like that element of this movie. I think that it was a very wise, creative choice to really immerse us into the world of evil and really showcase Michael Myers' home life and maybe how he has a good relationship with his mom. But his mom's boyfriend, he cannot stand, and obviously they can't stand each other. He also doesn't have a good relationship with his sister Judith. We find out so much about Michael Myers' childhood in this movie, and that is something that really divides fans, but it's something that we haven't seen before, and it's because no filmmaker wanted to take that risk and help us understand Michael Myers any more than we already did, because John Carpenter did set that up and say that Michael Myers is the essence of evil. You don't really need to know much about him. And while I do agree to that, I think that the thing that makes this film so unique is the fact that we do get to find out about that, and that is simply because of the creative choice that Rob Zombie made. And I'm very glad that he did make that choice, because it presents his own vision. He says, this is the story that I want to tell of Michael Myers, and I'm going to tell it. And then the second half of this movie, we get introduced to Laurie Strode. Like, I actually had to pause it to look and see what the timestamp was as to where we got introduced to Laurie. It's like 50 minutes into the movie. Like, I mean, she's really only in this because the movie is an hour and 50 minutes long. So she is in this movie for about an hour, 10 minutes, which is enough time for us to develop a likeliness to her. I think that Scout Taylor Compton does a really good job at bringing us an update to Laurie Strode, you know, the character that we know and love. She does have a little bit dirtier of a side to her than Laurie Strode from 1978 does. But again, this is what is Rob Zombie bringing to the table that is fresh and unique. And I think that everything in this movie, he does try to emulate what made John Carpenter's Halloween so great. He has distant Myers shots from time to time, and that's especially during the second half of the movie when we follow adult Michael Myers, when he gets his mask at the Myers house. Everything from there, like when Laurie is introduced to Tommy, Rob Zombie does try his best to give his version and an updated version as to what we saw in Halloween 1978. Even some of the kills in the second half are a bit more settled because, you know, that's what Halloween was. It was just settled kills. Now, this movie is fucking brutal, and Tyler Mane as Michael Myers, as the adult Michael Myers, we gotta talk about him, is a fucking menacing motherfucker. Like, you look at this man and you are just honestly terrified to be in this man's presence because of just how scary he looks. Now, one of the things that is heavily criticized in this film is the fact that you can see Michael Myers' eyes. There are some scenes where the lighting is done so well and this mask just looks absolutely menacing. And this is actually the closest look to the original 1978 mask. Now, it's an update, right? But it is the closest look from a mask perspective, at least at this time when the movie came out. It was the closest look, I should say, that we had since the original, because of just how many times the mask had changed throughout the course of the franchise. I love the look of this mask, and I also think that it was very creative to show two different forms of this mask. There's the one in the beginning where it's clean and white, and Michael Myers uses it to kill Judith. And then 15 years later, 15 years goes by, and then it's all weathered and cracked and stuff. I really do like that creative choice a lot. Now, is this movie perfect? No. I do think, and while I love this movie, I do think that there is a lot going on within this film that I feel like that could have been worked on in the script. First of all, this movie's use of language is absolutely fucking absurd. Like, every other word for like the first like 10 minutes of this movie is the F-bomb. Like, they say fuck so much in the first like 10 minutes. And I actually do remember seeing this. I was in 6th grade when this movie came out, and I remember my dad, he was very excited to take me and my buddy to go see it. We had a great night. We went to a high school football game, then we went to the movies, and it was just a great overall night. And we were hoping to end the night with like a classic version of Halloween, and that is not what we got. My dad actually did feel embarrassed to have two young 6th graders there. It was a packed house. It was completely sold out. I had a great time, but my dad, I can imagine taking his, like, you know, these two young kids to see a movie like this. It was just different because, you know, he thought that it was just going to be like Halloween, like it was going to be subtle and it wasn't going to be that bad. But this movie has so much cursing in it, and I feel like the script just goes so over the top with it. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. Like I'm saying the F-bomb more right now because of I just finished watching this movie. But I do think that is something that could have been toned down, and I feel like the film would have been just as effective. Now, I do understand that you're setting up the Ronnie character in the beginning to be some big dickhead, and that's just part of his character. So, you know, but he really does overuse the F-bomb throughout the course of this movie. Another thing is, like, you know, some of the acting and everything from time to time could be a little bit cheesy. It is a slasher, so it does get a pass on that, but I do wish some of the performances throughout the course of the movie could have been just a little bit better. Malcolm McDowell, while he is great as Dr. Loomis, there are some lines that he delivers that I'm just kind of like, okay, like, you don't really seem like you're trying. You just seem like that you're just kind of like saying this. And one of the things that I can definitely think of is the scene with him talking to Sheriff Brackett, who is played by Brad Dourif, who is absolutely awesome in both of these movies. Brad Dourif is fantastic in pretty much anything that he is in. He's always a likable presence, and he is great as Sheriff Brackett in this film. But it's the scene with Malcolm McDowell and Brad Dourif when they are in Sheriff Brackett's office, and Loomis is trying to emulate the original Dr. Samuel Loomis's Donald Pleasance line about the most rudimentary sense of life or death, right or wrong, and stuff like that. I just feel like that he's just saying the line. Like, Donald Pleasance brought such a likeliness to that monologue, and I feel like that when Malcolm McDowell says it, it just doesn't have the same effect. And I mean, it's even the same thing, like, with the line at the end, like, you know, it was that the boogeyman, and he's like, as a matter of fact, I do believe it was. Like, it just didn't have the same effect to me. And, you know, I do think that he is fine as Dr. Loomis, but, you know, when it comes down to it, I do feel like that Malcolm McDowell, he tries to be that over-the-top presence that Donald Pleasance was, and in some cases it just doesn't work. And, again, nothing against the man. I think that he is fine as Dr. Loomis, but let's face it, guys, he's no Donald Pleasance. But again, you can't really go in comparing this because they are two completely different things. And this is, again, Rob Zombie's vision of Halloween and reinventing Halloween. And I will say, Rob Zombie, he brings his vision. He is not even in conversation for one of the worst filmmakers out there. He is a very talented filmmaker. He is a very talented musician. He has been blessed with so much talent, and honestly, the one thing that I do feel like, though, is while, yes, he is a very damn good film director, I do think that his scripts are something that need a ton of work. And I do think that if he ended up directing somebody else's script, I think that he has some sort of horror masterpiece out there that will be remembered for fucking years. This movie is going to be remembered for years because, yes, it's Halloween. It's something that is already part of an established franchise that he brings to the table, and he brings a pretty solid, updated vision to the table. Again, something that we haven't really seen before with the young childhood Michael Myers and all that shit. But he also brings a whole lot of Rob Zombie to the movie. And, you know, that's something that some people really seem to like and something that some other people just really fucking hate. So, you know, I do think that this movie, it's got a good Halloween atmosphere. It's got a good vibe to it. It's got an old, grainy vibe to it. On Halloween night, the main Halloween night where this movie takes place, I think that the moonlight, the cool blue feel to it. Love the color grade. I love just so much about, like, you know, what Tyler Mane also brings to the character, because Tyler Mane is not trying to be Nick Castle. He's trying to establish his own presence as Michael Myers, and, you know, this is definitely one of the most fucking menacing Michael Myerses in the entire franchise. I don't care what anybody says. I do really like Tyler Mane as Michael Myers. I do like the story that Rob Zombie tells. I like the delve into evil. And yes, while this movie does have a very big overuse of language and some of the other technical issues that I have with the movie, they can all be undermined only because I do think that this is a really damn good update, and the movie is fucking violent. It's good. It has some memorable kills to it. It's got freaking Joe Grizzly bitch, like when Michael Myers gets his outfit, like his iconic outfit. There's so much cool stuff too in the behind the scenes documentary. If you guys have never seen that, I believe it's still on YouTube. I think you can look it up. It's 4.5 hours long. And this production was also very, very, very micromanaged by the Weinsteins. You know, this is just about 6 years before their scandal and whatnot. But this movie was bombarded with micromanaging by the Weinsteins. And I literally hate hearing about that, because it's like they hired these filmmakers to do this and they're just going to micromanage the entire production. That just doesn't sit well with me. It's like, let the fucking man that you hired present his story in the way that he wants to present it, because you guys hired him for a reason. So, you know, Rob Zombie he's been incredibly open about how much he's hated working on these movies simply because of the Weinsteins and because of just all the shit that they said. And we're going to talk a lot more about that next week when we get to Halloween 2. But yeah, guys, I really do like Halloween, man. I think that this is a really good update. I think that Rob Zombie brings a creative vision and really takes a risk that even the filmmakers with the new Halloween franchise aren't doing. They're not really bringing too many risks. They've said that they're canceling every single Halloween movie that exists with this trilogy, yet they're still doing and presenting all of the same shit that we've seen numerous times throughout the course of this franchise. And yes, I know that we're still a few weeks away from Halloween Ends, and yes, based on what we're seeing with marketing and based on the theories and everything, it seems like that they're finally going a different direction and updating, you know, something and being a little bit creative. But this is the third and final chapter in a trilogy, guys. Like, I don't think that that's the place where you should get the most creative. That's just me. I gotta wait to see how that plays out. But I do think that Rob Zombie has a vision. He has a story that he wants to tell, and he fucking tells it. And I do think that this is a really damn good and entertaining Halloween movie. So I'm gonna say that Halloween 2007 is an avid Halloween partier. I think that this is a great movie to put on at a Halloween party, fucking drink some beers, have some good times with some friends, and literally just watch some of the reactions to some of the squeamish people within the room, because this movie, it will get under your skin if you don't like blood or anything like that, because again, it's very, very violent. So really, really enjoy this movie. And with all that being said, post your guys' comments down below. Let me know, what do you guys think of Rob Zombie's Halloween? Do you guys love it? Do you guys hate it? Do you guys kind of find it somewhere in the middle? Whatever your guys' thoughts are, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you guys like this, don't forget to join me on my journey to 10,000 subscribers, and I will see you guys in my next video.